We've talked about how logs are useful and some of the rules of logs and how there's different bases, including base e, which is a weird number, but it has some nice mathematical properties. But what if you didn't want to work in base e? Let's say you accidentally used log base e, but you really wanted to do log base 10 because we have 10 fingers and we like that number. Well, we're going to use this rule right here, where I can do a fraction of logs and I can pick any base I want. So I'm going to pick base 10, and I do the x in the numerator, and on the denominator I have log base 10 of the base, which is e. And it does not look like I have made things any simpler, but please be patient with me. This right here, log to base 10 of e, is just some number. Log base 10 is like a machine that takes in this 2.7 and it's going to spit something out. Since it's getting a number in, it's going to spit a number out. Look this number up. I actually just used my TI with the log of e. I'll show you later how you can do that in R. But this number is 0.434. That's just a number. I can rewrite this by pulling this fraction part out in front. This denominator, I'm going to make it a 1 over that denominator here in front so that my log x is separated. I'm trying to show that the log can be pulled apart from the piece we used to change the base. And if I simplify this, I get 2.30 times log base 10 of x. Now, this number is really close to the number e. That's just coincidence because of the numbers we're playing with. It's not that this is actually e, it's off. But the idea is, if I start with log base e, I can change it into log base 10 as long as I have the right coefficient in front of it. So all logs relate to each other just by changing some number that you multiply out in front. What if I was a computer scientist using log to base 2 and I want to change it to be log base e? Well, I divide by log base e of 2, simplify that in my calculator. 1 divided by that number gives me my coefficient, and so log base 2 of x is just 1.44 log base e of x. Let's pick something weird. Let's say I wanted to do a log base e of x, but I wanted to turn that into a log to base 1.03. And I just need to know what coefficient goes right here. Well, I'm going to take my log and split it into a fraction where I have base 1.03 of the x and of the e. Now, this is just a number. How do I figure that out? Well, there's a function in R that could do it easily, or I could just pull the same trick again, turn that into a fraction of log to whatever base I want of e over log to whatever base I want to 1.03. And why would I change to base 10? Well, just because my calculator has a log 10 function is pretty easy. And so I can put that in my calculator. It's 33.83087. 1 divided by that gives me my coefficient of 0.029. So the bottom line here is you can use whatever log is easiest to use when we're doing this regression with logged variables and translate it into whatever log you want by having the right variable. Now, why would we want a log base 1.03? It's because 1.03 can be written as 1 plus that extra 0.03, which is like saying 100% or everything we started with at the beginning plus 3% more. So 1.03 means a 3% increase to what we used to have. So how much are we adding here? Well, it depends on how much you start with. If you start with 100, then we're only adding 3. But if you start with 1,000, we're adding 30. So this is allowing us to do an increase that is based off of where we started. In the same vein, you can imagine how useful 0.97 would be. That's a 1 minus 0.03, which is 100% with 3% less. So we're subtracting 3% from what we started with. If you start with 100, you're only subtracting 3. But if you start with 1,000,000, then you're subtracting 30,000. So this allows us to subtract an amount that is different based off what we started with. And that's going to be really useful when we start doing interpretations. So we are going to do log base weird things close to 1. And in fact, how far away from 1, either above 1 or below 1, helps us to interpret what's really going on. So, bottom line, if we were doing regression and we wanted to use log base e, why? Because that's really simple and easy to use in R. It has a function made for this. But we want to interpret it by using a 3% increase on x. then we can do that just by multiplying some number times whatever coefficient we get. So it doesn't matter what log we use here as long as we can figure out this number. And if you got lost in the math, that's okay. In the next few videos, we're going to come up with some simplified rules for how to get these numbers. I hope that having seen the math, you'll say, I believe that this rule works, and if I had to, I could go back through it. But now we can interpret it with whatever log we want, regardless of what log we used in the regression statement, just by finding this number. And we'll see an example of this in the next video.